Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, Premier of Nevis, and the host of the show now for nearly 20 years. Yes, I started very young. We're here this evening to have another discussion, which we hope will be a scintillating discussion. We usually start with me making a few remarks, comments, what I refer to as my soliloquy, and then, of course, you have the opportunity to call in with whatever it is on your mind, your views, your opinions, whatever issues might be pressing. This is a show where we discuss everything. There is no particular topic. There's nothing that is out of bounds. All that we ask, of course, is that we continue to be respectful of each other and respectful of the very high standards that Von Radio has set over the years, where, as we know, only the best will do. That's the standard that has been set, and that's the standard to which we have tried our very best to adhere over the past nigh 20 years. And so, we thank you for joining us. For those who are online, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. Thank you very much. For our brothers and sisters here in Nevis, good evening to you. Good evening to our brothers and sisters on St. Kitts. And for all of you who are listening, our brothers and sisters in St. Martin, Anguilla, Montserrat, Seisha, Staba, those who are down in the British Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, if you're in Puerto Rico, if you're there in Bermuda, if you are in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, wherever you may be. Good evening to you. Welcome to this edition of On the Mark. Now let me start with an apology. Last week, regrettably, we didn't have the show. We couldn't have the show because we weren't, all of us, to St. Kitts to participate with our dear friends, the Republic of China, Taiwan, on the occasion of their 113th National Day. It is an important relationship, and the fact that I'm not here doing this show, I've even done this show sometimes on my birthday. So the fact that I'm not here doing this show means that I value the relationship with Taiwan very much, that the people of Nevis and the people of the wider Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, that we value that relationship and that we thought it was important. And so the entire cabinet would have journeyed to St. Kitts to be with our Taiwanese friends on their big celebration. And I was afforded the privilege to say a few words of congratulations to them on attaining their 113th National Day. And so I say kudos to Taiwan. May they continue from strength to strength. I think they have been a model nation, a model of democracy, of peace, of progress, of prosperity. And I'm hopeful that they continue in that vein and that our relationship with them continues to grow and to prosper, to widen and deepen. Taiwan is not just a friend. Taiwan has been and remains our best friend. And so we continue to engage with them in a very positive and symbiotic way. We have provided a voice for Taiwan in fora where Taiwan is denied a voice. And Taiwan has assisted us in a considerable amount and to a considerable degree in terms of ICT, in terms of education, in terms of agriculture, security, the environment, you name it, Taiwan has been involved. And so we say kudos to them, 113 years. And for our full 41 years of independence, Taiwan has been our friend. In fact, I am told that Taiwan was the very first country to recognize us, and we have stayed with them. In terms of my few remarks, I was able to express to Dr. Kennedy Simmons, the Right Excellent and Right Honorable Sir Kennedy Simmons, our only living national hero, my personal appreciation for his wise decision at the time, way back in 1983, to engage in and enter into diplomatic relations with Taiwan. We have remained true to that course, and we propose to continue to remain true to that course. And so, happy birthday, Taiwan. God bless you. God bless your people. May you continue to prosper. Ladies and gentlemen, that therefore is my apology for last week, but we're back now, and thank God for strength and health that I'm here and able to have a conversation with you. I hold this duty of mine quite dear. It is nearly for me a sacred duty to engage with you. Leaders and those who aspire for leadership cannot be afraid of the people that they wish to lead. We must always be ready. We must always be willing to engage with our people, to answer questions, to expose ourselves to that level of inquisition, if you will, from our public. Because if I am to serve you, and I use that word because that is what I am doing, serving you, then certainly you must be free to ask me the relevant questions. It is not to suggest that that is a license to be disrespectful. What we try to do on this show is to have meaningful debate. Our hope is that even for those who do not call in, but who listen, that they go away at the end of each show thinking that they were part of something worthwhile. That they heard the arguments, the cut and thrust, the back and forth, but ultimately they were part of something that was worthwhile. For me, that is important. And if there is one thing that is said about this show, when those who survive us do what they do, write about the era that would have gone before, I'm hopeful that they will say that On the Mark encouraged freedom of speech within St. Kitts and Nevis, and that we provided a forum, the only show of its kind with 2 hours of commercial-free primetime radio, a forum where people can call and are given the time to develop their points. I may not agree with them, and indeed, oftentimes they do not agree with me. But we're respectful of each other. And I believe that our country needs more of that, more of respectful dialogue, more of dialogue which seeks to uplift, not dialogue which seeks to denigrate and seeks to create division. And so that is what we're trying to do. Now, I hasten to say that we don't always get it right, but we continue to try. And so I'm hopeful that that is what this show will be remembered for. I'm equally hopeful that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis will remember the law firm of Daniel Brantley, because they're the ones who have financed this show, paid for this show, all the years that we've been on the air. And I just want you to think about that. For more than 15 years, they have paid for this show and allowed us, therefore, to have a show which is commercial free. I say thank you to them for their continued commitment to the ideals of freedom of speech. Now, I was told that a good friend of mine, Joya in St. Kitts, is having a birthday. I think that perhaps it is a birthday today. I am not sure whether the birthday is today or it was yesterday or if it's tomorrow, or knowing her, maybe she's celebrating for the entire month of October. But Joya, if you're listening, happy birthday to you. And I wish you many, many more birthdays. I trust and hope that God will continue to bless and keep you and give you good health and abundant happiness. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On the Mark. And we have a few things to discuss tonight. The first thing I will say is that I am, with the grace of God and hopefully God willing and permitting, that I will be traveling to Bermuda, and that I will be traveling to Bermuda next week. And I will be having in Bermuda a number of meetings have been scheduled for me. I'm advised that I will be meeting with the Premier of Bermuda, Premier Burt. In addition, I'll be meeting with some parliamentarians who are of St. Kitts and Nevis descent. But I hope to have an open town hall meeting, and that will be on Friday the 25th of October. Friday, that's next Friday, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. We will be at the Christ Anglican Church Hall in Middle Road, Devonshire, DV 8, Bermuda. And we're inviting all persons of St. Kitts and Nevis descent, and of course friends of St. Kitts and Nevis. It is dubbed Meet the People, and I, as the Honorable Premier of Nevis, will be there for my very first time. I've never been to Bermuda before, but I certainly look forward to going there. Now, people may well out there be asking the question, obviously, well, why are you going to Bermuda? And let me explain it this way. I started the discussion when I was afforded an opportunity to speak at the Circle of Care event in Canada earlier this year. And I made the point then that when I looked at the recent census figures for St. Kitts and Nevis, that it brought home quite graphically to me that we needed to do more in terms of population, of augmenting, building our population. That Nevis with just over 13,000 people and St. Kitts with just over 35,000 people. Together we had barely 50,000 people. That we simply did not have the human capital to build out the sustainable island state that we have been hearing so much about. I am committed, as the Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Drew, has indicated his commitment to building out the sustainable island state. But we cannot build a sustainable island state without people. At the end of the day, what we do for people. And if we are to build and grow and develop, we need people. And so I have decided to embark on a particular project, if you will, where the Nevis Island Administration is seeking to attract our people home. We want you to come home. And for those who are unable to do so physically, we want to rekindle your love affair with St. Kitts and Nevis. In many cases, that love affair has to be rekindled not with people who were born here, but with people who are descendants of those who were born here. And that brings me to Bermuda. Bermuda, many may not know, is one of the wealthiest islands in the world, and certainly credited as being one of the best run and most successful small island places in the world. It's not a state, it is still, of course, an overseas territory, I believe it is referred to, of the United Kingdom. But Bermuda has one of the highest per capita incomes in the world. It is ranked certainly as one of the best places to live in the world. And it made me wonder, how has this little island been able to do so much? Now let me put it in context for you. Bermuda is only 21 square miles. 21 square miles. It means that Nevis at 36 square miles is almost twice the size of Bermuda. We are 5 square miles shy of being double the size of Bermuda. And St. Kitts at 68 square miles, it means that St. Kitts is more than 3 times the size of Bermuda. In fact, if you take the country of St. Kitts and Nevis, 36 square miles in Nevis, 68 square miles in St. Kitts, we have 104, I believe if my math is accurate, square miles for the country of St. Kitts and Nevis. And that 104 square miles means that we are just about 5 times the size of Bermuda. And yet, it might surprise some of you to know that Bermuda is far ahead of us in terms of its per capita income, in terms of its standard of living, in terms of how the country is perceived, in terms of it being well run. Not only that, Bermuda at a mere 21 square miles, 1/5 the size of St. Kitts and Nevis, has 65,000 people living there. Now I want that to sink in for a moment. That Bermuda, an island of 21 square miles, has 65,000 people living there. St. Kitts and Nevis, a country of 104 square miles, has only 50,000 people living here. So it means that we have 5 times the land mass of Bermuda, but we have less people in St. Kitts and Nevis than Bermuda has. 21 square miles is the size of Bermuda, 65,000 people. 104 square miles the size of St. Kitts and Nevis, 50,000 people. So Bermuda has just about 15,000 more people than we do. It therefore suggests to me that Bermuda has been able to attract and retain persons there. St. Kitts and Nevis, on the other hand, and the census figures support that, for many years our primary export was people. I believe that St. Kitts and Nevis in 2024, it is time for us to now say that we must become net importers of people. We agree that people will leave for a variety of reasons: family, health, education, opportunity. But we think that the St. Kitts and Nevis that exists today is a far cry from the St. Kitts and Nevis that many were forced to leave in order to feed their families, in order to look for opportunity. And so, if again you're still saying why Bermuda, it is because early in the 1900s, 1901 to 1904, I'm told, and therefore well over 100 years ago, Kittitians and Nevisians went in large numbers to Bermuda. They took what I'm told were referred to as the lady ships. These were boats that were trading vessels that took provisions and other goods from these islands, and I'm told sailed to Canada, passing Bermuda on the way. And stopping at Bermuda, people got off in Bermuda. Why, would you ask, were they going to Bermuda? And I'm told that they went to Bermuda because at that time in Bermuda they were rebuilding the Royal Navy dockyards and were developing the port facilities in Bermuda's capital of Hamilton. So our people migrated in large numbers to Bermuda, but that was over 100 years ago. Today, interestingly enough, those descendants of those people have become significantly interwoven in the tapestry of Bermudan life, and they've contributed in a significant way to the life and times of that great island that is Bermuda. And so, ladies and gentlemen, in a very real way, what I'm seeking to do is to engage with Bermudans in Bermuda, but who are of St. Kitts and Nevis descent. And interestingly, I had a very good conversation with a member of parliament there, the Honorable Thomas. His surname is, and I will give that to you now, Thomas Famous. Thomas Christopher Famous. That's his surname. And in fact, his conversation with me, he suggests to me that as much as 50%, he surmises, of Bermudans trace their roots to St. Kitts and Nevis. I want you to just stop and think about that for a moment. He's saying that it's possible that as high as 50%, forgive me, 50% of Bermudans trace their roots to St. Kitts and Nevis. And I saw an interesting article that appeared in the Bermuda press, and it was written by the same MP, His Honor Christopher Famous, and it says in part, anyone with the following surnames in Bermuda can safely say that their family comes from St. Kitts and or Nevis. What are those names that he mentioned? Simmons, Simons, Jacobs, Charles, Archibald, Pringle, Brown, Warner, Rollins, Francis, Mills, Morton, Keynes, Webb, Rabine, Cannonier. Now, does those names sound familiar to you? Of course they do, because they are clearly Kittitian and Nevisian names, and some of them are very, very common names. He said to me that if you were to open the phone book in Bermuda, you'll be amazed at the surnames that you see, and you'd realize that they're the same surnames in St. Kitts and Nevis. Put simply then, I am going to Bermuda to engage with that significant population of Kittitians and Nevisians by descent who call Bermuda home. Now, many may not know this, but there has already been a very slow trickle of Bermudans who have come back to St. Kitts and Nevis, who are building their homes, who are settling in here, who have holiday homes, or in some cases have retired and moved here. And they absolutely love it. In fact, I spoke to a good friend of mine, and she and her colleague have set up a small hotline, if you will, let me call it that. And what they're doing is they're assisting Bermudans in finding their roots, and in many cases applying for citizenship of St. Kitts and Nevis, to which they are entitled. And so my trip, ladies and gentlemen, is simply this. Oftentimes, for development purposes, for investment, we look outside. We look to places and persons who are not of us. And many times we ignore or neglect the reality that our own people might be in a position to invest and to assist us in terms of our development. And so my simple message then is that 100+ years ago, our people journeyed to Bermuda and have helped to create the Bermuda which is today a shining example of a well-run island paradise. In terms of its democracy, its government, its economy, Bermuda is world-class in so many respects. And if our people who have journeyed there could have participated and assisted in getting Bermuda to this point and this stage of development, then my simple question is this: can the descendants of our people now come home to St. Kitts and Nevis to help us to get to that stage of development? Because that is what it has to be now. Us in St. Kitts and Nevis seeking to get to the next level of development. Us seeking to achieve that sustainable island state that we have talked about. And I feel that the key lies in places like Bermuda. It lies in the United Kingdom, in places like Leeds and Manchester, in London. It lies in places in Canada, Kitchener, and other parts of Canada. It lies in the United States Virgin Islands, where again I'm advised that a significant population there are either born in St. Kitts and Nevis or direct descendants of people from St. Kitts and Nevis. The British Virgin Islands is no different. St. Martin is no different. We must look to our own diaspora and say to our people in the diaspora, it is time for you to come home. It is time for you to invest. It is time for you to visit. It is time for your children and grandchildren to know what their roots are and to understand from whence their heritage comes. The people of Bermuda, as I've suggested by one estimate, 50% might trace their roots to St. Kitts and Nevis. And if that is so, if that is correct, then it is important that they rekindle that linkage with this, the land of their ancestry, and that they understand and appreciate the strength of the men and women who would have journeyed by boat, braving the high seas, braving the waves, braving the storms, to arrive on the shores of Bermuda over 100 years ago, and who had over the next 100, now 120 years, would have contributed to building the Bermuda that everyone talks about, everyone respects, everyone holds in high esteem, and the Bermuda that they now love. And so these people that I will be speaking to are Bermudan, and they have a right to claim their Bermuda heritage because they would have helped to build Bermuda. But there are also Kittitians and Nevisians. And it is time, we feel, that they look towards the land of their ancestors to see how they now, 120 years on, can contribute to our development here in our beloved country. And so that is the purpose, ladies and gentlemen, of my trip. I shall, of course, be having formal meetings, but I'm looking forward most of all to this engagement in a town hall setting. And again, if there are persons here from Bermuda, or for that matter, if there are people who might be listening in Bermuda, I will be there and hopefully, God willing, be able to have a meeting dubbed Meet the People. It will be on Friday, 25th October, that is next Friday, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Christ Anglican Church Hall, Middle Road, Devonshire, DV8, Bermuda. We're inviting all descendants of St. Kitts and Nevis and persons who are friends of St. Kitts and Nevis. So I will leave that there for now and just say how pleased I am and how excited I am to finally see this island that I've heard so much about, but have never had the benefit of visiting before. There are, of course, many Bermudans who are here. I can think of my dear friend Lloyd Williams and his family, Millie, his daughter, his grandson, who is a top calypsonian here, So much they've contributed, and they're not alone. There are many others who are here. My friend Douglas, who has just built a home here, and others who call this island their home. And there are others in St. Kitts who call that island their home. And you know what? They should, because it is their home. This is the country from whence their ancestors came. And so I look forward very much to engaging with them, and I gather that my visit is already generating some level of excitement there, and I certainly look forward to having a conversation in that town hall setting with my fellow Kittitians and Nevisians who are also Bermudans living in Bermuda. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to that, and I certainly will report further to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis when I come back, and more specifically to the people of the island of Nevis. These are some of the efforts that we are making, out of the box, if you will, unusual, if you will, but I believe that we have within our own people at home and within our people in the diaspora the necessary resources, the necessary intellectual capacity to build our country here. If only we can get them interested in doing so. If only we can get them to buy into the vision that they have a role to play, and that those of us who are at home and those who happen to be abroad, that there's no difference between us. We are one and the same, and we must therefore join hands, put our strengths together, put our money and resources together, and see how we can build out these two islands that are St. Kitts and Nevis. I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that whatever our challenges may be, and there are some, that we can overcome them, and that St. Kitts and Nevis can and will become the best place to live, to work, to do business, not only in our region, but in our world. That is my desire, and I believe that we can achieve it if only we are willing to work together. If only we are willing to make it happen. If only we are willing to stop trying to sabotage our country, sabotage our efforts because we don't support a particular party or particular government. Let us move beyond that. There will be a time for the politics. There will be a time for elections. And whenever those elections come, the people will make up their mind. They will decide which direction they want to go in. And once they've decided, then it is up to us now to come back together, to work together. Those at home, those abroad, working together to build this country. And so, while my message next week will be to those in Bermuda, I'm hopeful that this same message will resonate with those in Canada, with those in the United Kingdom, with those in the United States of America, with those in the BVI and the USVI and Puerto Rico, with those in Sabre and Statia and St. Martin, and absolutely with those in Anguilla. It is time for you to come home. It is time for you and your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren to understand what it is to be Kittitian and Nevisian. Not taken away from what they are in terms of a Tomian or Crucian, but also understand that their ancestry, their roots, buried deep in the soil of St. Kitts and Nevis. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my objective, and I will continue to speak to it because I believe that the best development comes from our own people. They're the ones who understand, they're the ones who are committed, and they have more than money invested when they invest. They have invested their heart, they've invested their soul, they've invested because they're patriots. They love this space because it is their space. They're not adopted. They have not come from elsewhere. This is their country. And so I certainly look forward to engaging in a very forthright and direct way. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On the Mark. And there has been a lot that is happening and a lot that continues to happen. Now, I want to just segue a bit and get into a little politics, because I think it follows from the comments that I've been making about our diaspora. I want to make it pellucid. that I, as leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement, the political party that has dominated the politics in St. Kitts and Nevis since its inception, but certainly since 1992 when it was first swept into office in the Nevis Island Assembly. Since 1992 until today, 2024. I believe, if my tally is correct, that is some 32 years. Since 1992 until today, the CCM has only lost one election, and that was in 2006. They have never lost another election. And we won't get into a debate about the 2006 election. We know that that election was marred with fraud and difficulty. But we put that to one side. And it must say something that the people of Nevis over the past 32 years, that is an entire generation, that the people have consistently said that the Concerned Citizens Movement is the right party to govern the affairs of Nevis, and is the right party to journey to Bastia to represent the people of Nevis. That is not a coincidence, and that cannot simply be explained away. Some have tried, but it would be foolish to try to explain away the fact that since 1992, the CCM has only lost one election. That was in 2006, and they lost that one election, if I can recall, by one seat, that one seat being the Honorable Malcolm Gishard, and he would have lost then to the Honorable Hensley Daniel by less than 30 votes. If my memory serves, I think it was 24 votes. And so, for the past 32 years, the CCM has lost one election by 24 votes. I just want you to reflect on that. So I hear a lot of chatter. I hear a lot of things being said. But that is the reality. Those are the facts. Now, one of the things that I heard recently being bandied about is that CCM only wins because there are people overseas that come home to vote for CCM. Now, that might be true if it was that only CCM brings people in to vote. But we all know that is not the case. In fact, having been on the ground now and an active politician engaging in elective politics, I'm not an armchair politician, I engage in elective politics, and I've done so since 2007. We're now in 2024, so it means that I have been elected into the parliament since 2007, which it means that I have been there for 17 years. In fact, only 3 parliamentarians in the national parliament have served longer than me. So I think that I'm qualified to speak to some of the realities of elective politics in St. Kitts and Nevis. And I want to put to rest tonight this suggestion that CCM only wins an election because people come in to vote. Of course people come home to vote. That is their right. It is allowed by law. They're not committing a crime. They're not engaged in anything fraudulent when they come in to exercise their franchise. Many of them, in fact, I would say the vast majority of them, they never stringberry right here. They are Nevisian and Kittitian, and they come home to vote. Well, let me, for purposes of this discussion, leave St. Kitts out of it, because CCM doesn't field candidates in St. Kitts. We are Nevis party, and thus far have been focused on the island of Nevis. But I hear the argument being bandied about. And I say to people all the time, why is it that we continue to try to fool our people? Because I will always put my hand up and say, yes, the CCM tries to mobilize its voters wherever we have them. If we have them in Barnesgate or we have them in Brooklyn, we try to mobilize our voters so that they can exercise their franchise and vote for the government of their choice. But the The NRP in Nevis does the same, and in fact does more. When the CCM is trying to book flights on this airline and that airline, the NRP has been the only party that has been able to afford to charter jets to come in with people. And I believe all of us well remember the scenes of plane loads landing at RL being St. Kitts and being ferried over. In fact, one CCM supporter said to me that he recalled being at Mansell's, and when he saw the buses and the taxis and the party buses and the caravan coming off the sea bridge, filled to the brim with people in green, he said, "Oh my God, CCM lose." So people come in, as is their right. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing NRP. NRP is doing the same thing that CCM, Labour, PAM, PLP, and everybody else do. Everybody else does is trying to bring out their voters, trying to get their voters to come to the polls, mobilize their voters, whether, as I said, they're in Barnesgate or in Brooklyn. So, it is absolutely ludicrous for anyone to argue that somehow CCM can only win an election because of the overseas voter, when the other side is bringing in more overseas voters than us and continues to lose. Elections at the end of the day aren't won in the air, elections are won right here on the ground. But it brings me to a fundamental philosophical point that I want to put on the table tonight. There are some who sought to ban the overseas vote. Some who sought to say to our brothers and sisters who happen to live in Statia, happen to live in St. Martin, happen to live in Tortola, happen to live in Charlotte Amalie, that they cannot come home to vote. People who own land here, pay tax here, have their bank account here, come home every year for Culturama, come home for Christmas to spend time with their families. We are told they ought not to be allowed to vote in this, the country of their birth. But guess what? While there are some who want to disenfranchise our own people, they have nothing to say about the reality that under our law, if you are from a Commonwealth country, let us say you come from Kenya, or you come from Rwanda, or you come from Nigeria, and you land here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and you live here for 12 months, after 12 months you are eligible to vote. I don't hear any argument being made about that, and I dare say that that is the law, and the law has to be obeyed, and therefore if the law provides that those individuals can vote, I say welcome, and I hope you vote CCM. But I don't hear no noise being made about that. But people whose navel string buried here, who come from Henley Park, and come from Brownhill, and come from Barnesgate and Jessops, and come from Brick Hill and Goat Hole, you're telling those people they ought not to be allowed to vote here because circumstances, difficulty, hardship forced them abroad. My father was a man called Irving Brantley. I don't believe I've ever met a man who loved Nevis more than Irving Brantley did. He journeyed first to England, spent 10 or 12 years in England, in a place called Moss Side, which I believe is in Manchester. He then left England and went to New York, spent another 30 plus years in New York. But whenever you spoke to Irving Brantley, he always said that I intend to return home to Nevis. And eventually, through the grace of God, he was able to come back. He built a beautiful home in Prospect, and that's where he lived out the rest of his days. May God bless his soul. You mean to tell me that you're going to say to an Irving Brantley that you have no right to vote in this, your land of birth, because you happen to go abroad to better yourself? Irving Brantley invested every penny he had in the island of Nevis. His bank accounts were in the island of Nevis. Nevis is in their blood. You're going to tell certain people, Sadio, Doc Gishard, Everson Hull, Eustace Huggins, I could go on and on, Shark, Roach, I could call so many names. And you mean to say to me that you're going to tell them that, sorry, they cannot vote in their own country because they happen, because of circumstances, economic and other circumstances, to live abroad. But you have no difficulty with those who come from Commonwealth countries who come here and after 12 months they can vote. So I hear the argument being made. Because you see, those who are opposed to this great CCM party, this big blue machine, they are not prepared to admit that they're simply outclassed, they're not as good, that the CCM is better, and that the ultimate test in politics is an election. You see, any of us could sit down on radio and talk, you know. Do you know that some of the best cricketers have never been on the cricket field? They're up in the stands, they're at ETW, and every shot that is played they have a criticism, and every ball that is bowled they have a criticism, but they have never played one day of cricket themselves. Talk is cheap. Hammond costs money. And the problem that we have is that we have a lot of talking heads who continue to seek to find justification for their shortcomings. Ladies and gentlemen, people say money win elections. I say no. Yes, you need money for an election, but money doesn't win elections. If that was the case, CCM could not win an election in Nevis because we have been consistently outspent. Some election ago, the amount of money that came from Bar State to the NRP was alarming. And I was sitting in government with those who were sending over the money. But that's a debate and a discussion for another time. It was alarming. But they still lose. You know why? Let me tell you why. If you're selling a product that nobody wants, it matters very little how much you hype the product, because nobody wants your product. And that really is the fundamental problem that I find in this country we do not want to address. So after every election loss, we start to make noise. This last election, no different. My cousin take me to court, say I thief election. Me, clean as driven snow, a clean, decent Hebrew boy, say I thief election. When you get in there in front of the judge now, chalala, case short, you have to pay Mr. Brantley a ton load of money. And then you stay in the court and you start the ball. Start the ball, snot coming out your nose. You know why you're balling? Because of your folly. Because a lot of those people who up in the pavilion telling you hoots, hoots, but when push come to shove, you can't find them, you know. When they're up in the pavilion say, boy, hook the ball, hook. When you hook and you get out down on the boundary, they say, watch, he's so stupid. He's so stupid, in another duck, he should have duck. Listening to people who have not been politicians, who are armchair, and who claim to have all the answers and all the reasons, leads some of us into problems. I don't want a soul to tell me hoots. Because a lot of the fellows who egging you on, when the licks start to share and you look behind, not one of them is with you. You're standing alone. And that is what happened after the last election. So accustomed is the NRP to making allegations of electoral fraud or overseas voter, some reason that they find. They must seek to find a justification for their dwindling supporters that something was done to deny them the victory. when the only thing that was done is that the people went out and voted overwhelmingly for the CCM, as they have done consistently, except for only one occasion since 1992. I want our people to reflect on that, because those are the facts. And perhaps it will serve all of us, instead of trying to find excuses, to look at the root cause of why elections in Nevis over the past 32 years have gone the way that they've gone. NRP is a product that people don't want to buy. And when the people bought it in 2006, within short order they had buyer's remorse. You know how I know? Because the great Earl Malcolm Gishard passed away suddenly in 2007. Just about a year after the NRP was in. Had won after 14 years in the wilderness. And I, a youngster at the time, came up against the Deputy Premier, Hensley Daniel, who was the incumbent in St. John's. And you know that in the constituency of Nevis 9, it is St. John's and St. Paul's combined. And who was the incumbent in St. Paul's? NRP again, Elhansville Hector. And I came up therefore against Hensley Daniel, the incumbent in St. John's. He was the candidate. But in St. Paul's, Elhansville Hector also the incumbent. So I was up against two people, both ensconced in government, and a man who had the power and the aura of the Deputy Premier. And guess what? I bang him, you know. I bang him. I like to say that it was a landslide victory of 30 votes. And people don't always understand what I mean. They said 30 votes is not a lot, but it was a landslide because just a year before, he had purportedly beaten Malcolm. Elhansville in town had beaten Mikey Perkins. And they were in government. And here I was, a rank newcomer, a babe in terms of politics, and I beat the Deputy Premier. Bang him like a bongo drum. Well, you know the reason for that? The reason for that is that by then people already had buyer's remorse. People already said, boy, we take a chance on these fellas here in 2006. And a year later, they don't want to get rid of them. But not the NRP, you know. Here don't start to say, oh, it was a vote for Malcolm. It was a sympathy vote. That's why he won. And I said, all right. That may be so. There may be some people who came out and voted because Gish was a great man. And so guess what? 2007 was the by-election. We went into an election in 2010. Federal again. Same hen up, come again. Bang him like a bongo drum. This time though, it wasn't by 30, it was by 144. Well, that was a sympathy vote too. Well, how that vote they happen? Oh, this and that and that. They start to cuss the Guyanese. I hope I remember, you know. Start to cuss the Guyanese. It's the Guyanese them. And with that they start to deport Guyanese left, right and center out of Nevis. Harass them, round them up, and send them out of the country. Because it's the Guyanese why they lose. So they end up lose in 2007. It was a sympathy vote for Gish. End up lose worse in 2010. Is the Guyanese and them fault. So we went into the local election in 2011. And they put a black fox down in Cox. And that black fox ensured that I fell short by 14 votes. 14 spoiled ballots. 203. Most of them the same Guyanese taken off the voters list. Nearly the whole of Cane Garden was taken off. And I said, no, me not take it so. Because I knew that the NRP had stolen the election. And so I went to court in 2011. The judge said, hand up, null and void. Go sit down. Hand up appeal. The Court of Appeal 3-0. Hand up, null and void. Go sit down. And so, Mr. Parry, the then Premier, had no choice but to call an election. He could have called a by-election. He decided he going to call an island election. So we went back in 2013. And we romped home in 2013. I won by over 240 votes this time around. Against the same Hensley. This is the third time now. Hand up get blows. 2007, 2010. They worked the bubble in 2011, but the court slapped him on his wrist and said, you have been a naughty boy. And so 2013, when we went back to the polls, pure bongo drum, licks like a bongo drum in hand up again. 2013. Them start to say, oh, this and oh, that, again trying to find an excuse. Well, if I remind people, you know, I had somebody I knew was married 6 times. This is a true story. He was married 6 times and he was divorced 6 times. And one day he's talking to me and sharing some wisdom with me, and he said, Mark, I have been married and divorced 6 times. Women are bad. I said, what you say? He said, I say women are bad, they're terrible. 6 times I've been married and 6 times I've been divorced. And I said to him, but in that time, were you married to the same woman more than once? He said, no, 6 different women. I said, so you were the only common denominator in those 6 relationships. You are the only one who's common to all 6. And all ended in divorce. Well, you know, see, you are the problem. It can't be the women. You mean 6 women wrong? You are the problem. And that is the difficulty. Because every time they lost an election, they found a reason to blame somebody. But the proof of the pudding was right there staring them in the face. Hen up was a product nobody wanted to buy. It was as simple as that. Then they send other people. They send El Hansville, he get beaten like a bongo drum. They send the boy, the CFBC boy, oh Lord. Well, he get beat so bad he's still acting like he Bazadi. Then who else they send? I don't know who else they send. Then they send Patricia. Patricia lose, they send her back, Patricia lose again. Patricia start the ball. Went court, no, got to pay money. One after the other, the results are the same. But you're asking yourself now, well, why Mark going down memory lane and talking all these things? I go back to the overseas voter. Because when they have refused to confront the real reason for their electoral losses, they start to say, oh, remember I tell you they'll say the first vote was a sympathy vote for Malcolm. Then they say it's Guyanese. Then they now start to blame the overseas voters. How much overseas voters we bring in, and that's why we win. Because they refuse to accept that they really have a product that nobody wants to buy. Nobody's interested. Nobody feels any confidence in them. And so they attack the overseas voters. But who are the overseas voters? Well, you know, it's me and you. It's me and you. And I have said it time and time again, because some of them here who have been most vociferous about foreigners and about all kinds of things, ask them where their family members are. And the answer, in foreign lands. And so I have said that so long as I am leader of CCM, so long as I have a political voice, that I will not be part of any effort to disenfranchise the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and more specifically the people of the island of Nevis, because they happen to live outside. People could say what they want to say about overseas voters come in and vote and then they leave. That may be true for some, but it is not true for all. And there are many of our brothers and sisters who live in Brooklyn, who have taken a greater interest in the affairs of Nevis than those who might be here, living right here on the island of Nevis. Many are investing their money, saving their money here, coming home to support everything here, packing barrel to send here, taking care of people here, buying land here, building house here. They're doing, in some cases, more, paying their taxes here. And then you tell them, simply because you happen to be away, you're not allowed to vote here. I am not asking anybody out there listening to me to agree with me. I'm telling you what my position is. That I will not be party or privy to any effort to disenfranchise our people. The CCM marched through the hot streets of Charlestown. We held up placards and then we went to the court of law. You know what we went for? To protect the right of people to vote. That's what we went for. When the NRP was seeking to disenfranchise people, when they took off 203 names from the voters in St. John's, when they took off hundreds more in St. Paul's, and still hundreds more in St. James, we, the CCM, we were the ones who stood up. So how now you're going to expect me to join any effort to disenfranchise people? And I'm going to share something this evening, because I see someone whom I respect, but I know her politics. She got on Facebook the other day and tried to come at me sideways, saying how when Unity was in office, they could have got rid of the overseas vote, but CCM blocked it. That's what he said. And I responded to her. I said, yes, CCM blocked it. And if it came again today, I will do what I can to block it. Because I cannot look at my Nevisian brother in the face, my sister in the face, and say that I was a part of shutting you out of voting in your own country. I will not do it. I can't be no hypocrite. That is why I go to New York and have meetings, town halls. I go to VI and have town halls, because I respect our people who live there. They contribute and they are part of us. And I'm not going to create any situation where they feel less than because they happen to be abroad. I will not be a part of it. And so yes, this proposal came up when Unity was there. And here's this good lady. I know her politics. I will not disrespect her and say anybody sent her. But I know whose politics and whose agenda she serves. And she comes at me sideways to say that we blocked the effort to stop people coming in to vote. And as if I'm going to run from it and try to pretend. I said, no. Yes, I absolutely blocked it and stood up. In fact, I will share here tonight that I said in the cabinet that if it is that Unity decides that they will proceed with this, I, Mark Brantley, will resign. I don't come here to tell any lies. I say I, Mark Brantley, will resign, because I cannot look Nevisians who live overseas in the face and tell them that I was party to shutting them out. They say, oh, you don't need the overseas vote to win. CCM going to win anyway. I say it's not about winning, it's about principle. And I will not be party to that, because I believe they have an equal right, just as us here have an equal right. And what reinforced my position, and I'm going to say it because it is the truth, those that were pushing to disenfranchise the overseas voter, to say to Nevisians and Kittians living in the diaspora that you should not be able to exercise your franchise in the country of your birth. The reason, the primary reason they were doing it, is because they said that they had done whatever analysis and that the overseas vote favored Labour. Let them vex with me, because I am speaking the truth. They said the overseas vote favored Labour, and let us get rid of it. And yet I'm hearing sensible, educated people trying to make the argument that there were those who were trying to clean up the system. They're trying to reform. What reform you're telling me about? If all that you're doing is seeking to remove what your analysts are telling you is a perceived electoral advantage to your opponent, that is not reform. That is an effort to fix the system, to rig it in your favor. And I said I'm not in any part of that. I am not going to be in any part of that. If Labour has voters in America, go America and try to convince them. If Labour have voters in Puerto Rico, go down there and habla la lengua and try to convince them. If they have voters in France, parle le français and try to convince them. Parle Creole, if they're in Dominica, try to convince them. But don't tell me that as somebody of principle, leader of a party that is formed on principle, that we must disenfranchise our own brothers and sisters because we say we want to do labor something. Not me. I'm not in that. And you all know that there was no more vocal opponent to the Labour Party led by Douglas than me. I'm saying that because it is the truth. But I was not going to go down that road. And I tell them plain, if I go down the road, I go down there without me. I am prepared to resign and stand on my principle. Let me go back into my little office, push my head in there, and tell my clients, them I'm back. I am not going down that road. And so if I'm to be condemned, then let it be. But understand that I acted and continue to act on principle. Because those who wanted to disenfranchise our brothers and sisters living abroad were not doing it because they wanted to any reform, any cleaning up of the system. They were doing it because they said, remove that and you do labor. You deal a blow to labor. It was raw politics at work, and I said, not me. I'm not involved in it. And when I tell them I would resign, everybody started to watch everybody and whatever. I say, well, it's up to you all. But I am not going to come here to do something that is against my core principles. And that has been my position. I am saying to you, you don't have to agree with me, you know. I'm just trying to explain it. Because as I said, I see somebody coming at me, trying to come at me sideways. And I said, sometimes when people come at you, say, whoever sent you, go back and look for them. Go back and look for them, because maybe sometimes you don't have the full story or the full understanding and appreciation of what happened. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 5 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. I have a lot to say, but I'm going to open the lines and see if anybody out there wants to talk to me. If you don't want to talk to me, I'm going to continue to talk. So please call in. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show. It's 5 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock, and so we have 55 minutes to take as many calls as we can on any subject that you seek to engage on. Now, until the phones ring, let me move on to something else. So we have been involved in the last several days in the budget discussions. And the good technocrats at the Ministry of Finance have said to me that they've fixed a budget debate, which, God willing, we hope to start on December 3rd, Tuesday, and to run it through that week. And I believe that in St. Kitts it's possible that it may be the following week. The budget process is laborious, it's difficult, but it is necessary, because it is through that process that we try to make plans and programs to adjust our fiscal house to ensure that we can deliver the goods and services to our people without, of course, jeopardizing the financial health of the nation. And so we have been involved in that process, and it's, as I said, difficult. It's an all-day process. And so for the last few days, that's where we've been. Today, however, the cabinet of the Nevis Island administration had a retreat. And this is where we go to a site. In this instance, we went to Four Seasons. I want to thank them for accommodating us. Let me take this call. This is our first call. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening to you.
I'm calling on behalf of Nevis Disaster Management. We've already kick-started our week in commemoration of International Day of Disaster Risk Reduction, with activities showcasing this year's theme, Empowering the Next Generation for a Resilient Future. Tomorrow, we'll be heading out to the War Memorial Square in Charlestown to test the public's knowledge on disasters. And on Saturday, the 19th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., we're inviting the public to come on out to the Family Fun Day, where we'll have all sorts of activities, including domino and football competitions, and also art competitions. So come on out.
So could you go a bit more slowly and tell us again? Because you went rather quickly. Could you tell us again what's happening? Hello?
Tomorrow,
Yes?
Tomorrow we'll be having a short quiz testing the general public knowledge on disasters. We'll be giving away small prizes. And on Saturday, our main event, we'll be having a family fun day with child activities and different competitions.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. And how have the events been going thus far?
Great.
You have good participation from the public?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for your call.
No problem.
And I wish you continued success. All right, it is now 8 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock, and that was just someone from from disaster preparedness indicating what their efforts have been thus far. And we, of course, ask that you go out and support them. Again, the numbers to call are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. As I was indicating, and as we wait for the phones to ring, we would have convened in retreat today, and it is something that the cabinet does on occasion to allow us a different setting, different forum, where we can engage with each other in a less formal way. Perhaps we would have done some cabinet business, but we spend most of the time looking at our strengths, looking at our weaknesses, trying to figure out how we can better serve the people of Nevis, how we can do a better job at serving and ensuring that we deliver on the commitments that we would have made to the people of Nevis. And so I want to thank my colleagues, the Honorable Deputy Premier Eric Evelyn, the Honorable Spencer Brand, the Honorable Troy Liebert, the Honorable Janelle Nisbet. Certainly I would want to thank our legal advisor, Helen and Lewis, and our Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Stedman Truss. It's a small team, but certainly it's a team that continues to work hard with our cohort of support from the public service, from advisors that we continue to seek to deliver for the people of Nevis. And so I just wanted to report on that to indicate that the budget discussions are ongoing, the discussions in terms of where we go, what we do, but also today we were able to have that retreat, which I think was very, very important. And I think it was a long day, but we left energized, we left renewed, and we certainly look forward to serving the people of Nevis better and to continually improve on our delivery of goods and services to our people. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 10 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. This is On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and I'm proud to be here this evening, pleased to be here this evening, honored to be here this evening, and inviting your calls at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Now, as I indicated earlier, I shall be traveling to Bermuda, God willing, next week, and I shall be having a town hall in Bermuda on Friday, 25th October at 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. It will be at the Christ Anglican Church Hall, and that is at Middle Road, Devonshire, DV8, Bermuda. We're inviting all persons of St. Kitts and Nevis descent and those who love St. Kitts and Nevis. We want you to be there, and we certainly look forward to seeing you and to having a meaningful discussion with you. And for those who were tuned in at the top of the show, you would know that that was an invitation extended, and I sought to explain why it is important that we go to Bermuda. Ladies and gentlemen, the phones are now open, and I'm asking for you to call. The numbers again are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. If you want to be a part of this show this evening, then we invite you to call. At the start of the show, I did apologize for not having a show last week, and that again was due to the fact that all of us, the members of cabinet and those who would ordinarily host this show, were in St. Kitts celebrating with our Taiwanese brothers and sisters their 113th National Day. So I ask you to forgive me for missing the show, the first one we've missed in a very long time, but it was for a worthy and useful cause. And so we apologize, but have sought to explain, and I hope that that explanation will be accepted. Now, again, we're hoping that you would call, but in the interim, we will continue with our conversation. The U.S. elections. Let me go to the phones. Take this call. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Hello? Okay, for some reason I'm not hearing this caller. Hello, caller?
Hello. Hello, good night.
Yes, I'm hearing you now. You're on the mark. Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to pay tribute to a fallen man, Mr. Raphael Herbert, who 47 years ago survived a tragedy with my father. Passed away, a sporting tragedy. Many people think remember the boat race on the 2nd of November. The 2nd of August 1976. So he survived for 47 years. The last man was on that crew of that boat race there. And so pay tribute to him as a man who survived for that long. And the second thing I want to talk about is, which is more important to you, uniting the people of Nevis or winning the election?
Well, you have to win the election if you're going to seek to implement policies that can unite the people. Policies that can advance the people.
Which is more important?
I'm sorry?
Which is more important?
But I'm saying you need to win the election in order to achieve the second matter. If you're going to influence that from a position, it has to be a position in government.
It could be from outside too.
Well, it could be from outside, to be sure, but the reason you have government is that government can set laws and policies. Government can come up with various initiatives that bring people together.
Well, my advice to Henry Daniel and to the lady in St. Kitts who head of is, as much as you're trying to change the government, you have to try to change this operation, this structure, constitutional operation of government. That everybody who have votes could be part of government structure. You could sit on a committee, tourism, sit on a committee, so that your people could be represented in government, in some form of governance. The outside door business and winner take all, Mark Brantley tell you that is outdated. Now, the third thing I want to do is the petition on the radio talking about sign petition for reparation. I mean, I call him President Mr. Joe to dismantle the committee because we already had a reparations committee when I was forced out into exile. Or to think it, how can the committee dismantle because what? And they put in the say coup to just try on the committee to just pass on 5 million people. It is noted that for every slave that made it to the Western world, 15 died. Multiply 5 by 15 and you see the real number of the British crime that they commit when they transported people across the Atlantic Ocean. They tend to civilize our people suffering. I condemn that statement there. 5 million? What about those who are dumped in the Atlantic Ocean? They don't count. Eh? I mean, I'm angry. And it makes me want to really want to really seriously in this country is that we see that in the football, the naming Atiba Harris and Kayambo as legends. But what about the generation before? What about Pepe Isaac? What about Timmy? What about those people names who gone in who built the football? It was we think the new football was ahead before Kayamba and Atiba Harris come. And I think that they are doing it wrong by forgetting the generation like Pepe and the generation like Timmy and the generation like them before to name some tournament after them. Give them the due reverence. I don't like to see that they were the last generation of great footballers. What about those who come before them? No acknowledgement. I mean, I think that is very, very shallow, you know. And I really want to call on Tibo as the president to really revisit that thing and get more of the ancient people recognized. Give thanks. I will answer like it.
Okay, well, no, thank you for your points. I allowed you to speak because I think that you always bring an interesting perspective. You have persistently made the argument about individuals, whether or not it is important that everybody sits in government, and who knows, maybe in time that we will evolve to that. But the current system that we currently have, really says that there is a contest. There's a contest of ideas. There's a contest sometimes of personality. People are given an opportunity to decide who they would like to govern them. And once that contest is over, people vote. In fact, our forebears would have fought for that right to vote. And they vote and they elect a government of their choice. And after 5 years or whatever the period, though that government has to go back to the people. And there's another opportunity for those in opposition then to engage with the people, and the people will decide whether they are satisfied with what they're seeing and getting from the government. And if they are, they vote to put them back. And so I always respect that process because that is the process that we have. Now, is it possible or would it be good to have other people involved? That's a debate that we can have. But the current system is what we have, and the current system, therefore, is what we must look to when we try to determine if one party or the other is the preferred party. And it's as simple as that. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Okay, caller, please call back in. Again, 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Now, some people say elections don't matter, or they chat foolishness and say, oh, you only know how to win elections. It sounds good, but when you examine it, you realize that it's foolishness. An election is like a test. You know, in school, you have some fellows who tell you they know the book from cover to cover. I remember that there was one fellow in my class, and he fancied himself to be a business person. And we had a course called Principles of Business. And he used to just come and fling down the textbook and say, I know it from cover to cover. And I had taken up Principles of Business on the side because I couldn't go to the classes because it was pitched at the time against geography, which I was doing as one of my subjects. And so I remember I used to meet the teacher right there by Powell's garage there as he's waiting for his bus, and I would tell him, man, I beg you, show me something, Mr. Morton. And he would basically spend 10 minutes with me whatever time until his bus came, teaching me something. That's how I learned Principles of Business. So when the exam came, I came out the exam, I said, boy, it wasn't a great exam for me. And I asked my partner, I said, he said, man, I kill it. Dead. But when the results came back, it turned out it killed him. So you see, talk is cheap. Everybody bright until they take the test. Let me go to the phones. No. Everybody bright until they take the test. The test is what determines what the position is. Let me take the call this time. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Premier.
Good evening to you.
I would like to make a statement and information given here. The Nevis Blind Light and Visually Impaired Society will not be having any concert this month. Normally our concert is in February, and the way the weather is this time of year, we don't want to do it again. Last year it was okay, but it seems to be acting up a bit right now. And so we agreed that we won't have it until in February. So we'll go back to our usual time, and I have to inform our customers because they usually look us up very well with the concert. Now, our luncheon, it will be on the 20th of November. We start to sell tickets, hopefully, from either the last week in this month or early in the first week of November. The cost is still $30. So, general public, please come and support us with our lunch. We are looking forward. You will hear other things about it later on. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, and I wish you, as always, all the best with your initiatives. Very proud of your continued efforts on behalf of those who are visually or light impaired, and you have continued to do an excellent job. So thank you very much for that. I go back to the point that I was trying to make, that my classmate felt he was bright and used to boast about how bright he was, but he failed the exam. And I think that we need to get it into our head that talk is cheap, but Hammond costs money. Because a lot of people talk. All of us who can talk, born with a English tongue in our head, we talk. We get on radio, we get on social media, we talk. But just like the man in the pavilion who has never played cricket, but he's always talking about cricket and is seeking to advise those who are on the field. I say all the time, the test for any political party is an election. Now just hear me out. If it is as we have here, the CCM is in office. The CCM took office in Nevis in 1992 under the leadership of the Honorable Vance Emery, now of blessed memory. And the NRP went into opposition. Dr. Simeon Daniel, our national hero, Right Excellent Sir Simeon Daniel, lost the election, and he decided that he was done with it. And so Joseph Parry took over as leader of NRP. Joseph Parry would have spent his time in opposition, bashing Vance Emery and the CCM and saying they're incompetent, they don't know what they're doing, and Nevis is going backwards. We know the usual song because it's the same song that they're singing 30 years later. But the next election came. Guess what? CCM won again. NRP continued. The next election came. Guess what? CCM won again. And again, and again, and again. The point I'm trying to make is this. The test ultimately is for the people. In politics, you're not allowed to mark your own exam paper. The test is for the people. So no matter how much you're out there cussing and saying the government is incompetent and the government is this and the country at a standstill and nothing is happening and everything in Nevis is bad, when the election is called, the people still tell you, go sit down, we don't want you. What does it say? It says two things. The obvious, that the people don't want you, and it also says the obvious, that the people are satisfied with the performance of their government. Because the role of opposition is to dislodge the government. But if the party that is in government comes to the people and says to the people, this is my record, this is what I've done, and these are my plans going forward, and the people said, yes, thou good and faithful servant, I shall put you back there because I am happy with the work that you're doing. What do you make noise for? It is the people that decide. You see, you can't believe in democracy and still condemn democracy. You can't say the people have a right to vote and a right to decide, and when they make their decision, you start to cuss them and say they're stupid and they're mumu and them don't know what they do. You have some people in the country who have set themselves up as the wise men and women. They know everything. They know where the country should be headed. They know how to create jobs, how to grow the economy. But guess what? Not one of them ever own a lemonade stand. Not one of them ever sell Freco. Them don't know and have no idea, because all their lives, the vast majority of them, they have sought to depend on the government. And some of them out there, Lord have mercy, I could imagine at night time they can't sleep good, because all them are coop. They won't get back into government because, Lord, they miss the trough. Man, they want to jump in and throw the whole body in the trough. Lie down and ring up like when pigs see mud. You know, when there's a place where they mud, you see how the pig them get in the mud, and I saw them want to get in the treasury. That is what they dream about, because they have no independent way to make their way in life. They have one plan and one plan only in their life, is to get into government. You know how I know that? Something interesting happened in the last election. The NRP won 2 seats in the 2022 election. And almost the same day that they won the 2 seats, this did what everybody really who has been observing and is feared would have expected, to start a fight. And that fight culminated in the NRP expelling the Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons from the party. The Kinney cat out Cleon. Cleon is a proud representative of the people of St. Thomas's. Cleon was senior to Dr. Janice, the Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge. Cleon was the sole representative of the NRP in the parliament for some time. They did whatever they did, whatever behind the scenes, and they put Janice as the leader, and they kick out Cleon. Coming back to that, let me go to the phones. Let me take this call. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night, Honorable Brantley.
Good night to you.
Lovely program as usual.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it very much, and I just love this show. My scripture tonight is from Psalm 117. Oh, praise all ye nations, praise him all ye people.
Could you raise your voice a bit? We're not hearing you as well as we normally do.
Okay, hold on. Okay, thank you. My scripture reading tonight is from Psalm 117. You can hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, praise the Lord, all ye nations. Praise him, all ye people. For his merciful kindness is great towards us, and the truth of the Lord endureth forever. Praise ye the Lord. Here endeth the reading of the scripture.
Well,
go from strength to strength. Okay? God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your scripture. I really do appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. You know, these callers who call in of their own volition, read a scripture, share a thought, say something that is uplifting, I want to let them know and let you know, caller, that I really appreciate you and I really appreciate what you do. So thank you very much for that. Going back to the politics for a moment, I was making a point that the Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons found herself thrown out of the party because there were others in Bastia, because that's where the puppet master was, who had other ideas. Fine. So she's out of the party. And there is naturally now a situation where the NRP would have had 2 seats, they now only have 1. And they're in and continue to be in this disarray, because today they're cussing CCM, tomorrow they're cussing Cleon. If you're cussing Cleon, naturally you're cussing the good people of St. Thomas's. They're the ones who went out and voted for. But you hear all kinds of arguments. But the point that I keep making is that ultimately it is the people who would have taken their decision, and whatever their decision might have been, we have to respect that. The Honorable Alexis Jeffers, to my mind, is one of the hardest working and one of the most successful politicians we've seen in Nevis in recent times. But the people of St. James, in their wisdom, decided that they will vote for Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge. She won by 8 votes. I called Alexis. I said, Alexis, that's not a lot and thing. Alexis said, I'm leaving that alone. People have said what they have said, and I am going to respect that. And so that is how that ended, and that stayed. J.D. Keynes in Charlestown lost by 20 something. Patricia Bartlett lost by 100 and something. And they both rushed to the court. And then when the court threw them out and told them they had to pay costs, you hear the hue and cry across Nevis, Lord, oh Lord, Lord, give them a chance, Lord, Lord. But you say, look at the difference. When I went to court in 2011, it's because I had evidence of the fraudulent behavior of the NRP. I didn't just go on radio, go chat choppiness. I went to a court and I proved it with evidence. I called witnesses who went on the stand and said how they'd been disenfranchised. So coming back to this 2022 and the aftermath, and my fundamental point that you have, when people show you who they are, don't for a minute say you don't believe them. You know what happened in 2022? One of the big reasons for the falling out was the question of who will be the senator on the opposition benches. And when I heard the breaking news that Hensley Daniel, who I spoke about earlier because I tell you the number of times, Hensley now, when I see Hensley walking, I don't even know if Hensley know if he going north or south, because Hensley don't take so much blows in politics, right? Hensley Daniel, I hear them saying that Hensley, who must now be at an age where he collecting Social Security, that Hensley was a choice to go back into the parliament here in Nevis as a senator. Not because Hensley had ideas and love and commitment for the people of Nevis that he was going in there, you know. At all, you know the reason was? He wanted to serve how many ever years so he could qualify for a pension. I believe that, ladies and gentlemen, is important, because it tells you what the mindset is. Not that I'm struggling, I want to get into the parliament because I want to serve, I want to help, I want to build Nevis. Boy, me try to get in there, go get me pension. Boy, me try to get me pension. That is as individualistic as you can imagine. And if the information is correct, the leader agreed to that. So it tells you that the objective then was not to push Nevis forward, not to have people in the debate and in the assembly who could articulate the position and fight for the island. Tal, the objective was to ensure that one man get his pension. That is what they were seeking to do. And that, brothers and sisters, tells you all you need to know. All of self and none of thee. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening.
Drink some water because you're coughing too much. So drink some water to clear your throat.
Thank you very much. I took your advice.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. I've taken a little water. I've been having a bit of a cough. So I thank you for that, caller. Thankfully, I have some water with me. And I thank you for the call so I could drink a little and settle my throat. We're taking your calls. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I am well, thank you. Good evening to you.
It's a long time I haven't called this program.
It's good to hear your voice, though. How are you doing?
I'm fine, I'm good. And I listened to you tonight. I listened. Well, it's good to move on principle.
Well, as I said, I'm not expecting that everybody will agree with me. But I'm trying to explain why I took the actions that I took.
Yes. I'm hearing you.
Yes.
I agree with you. However, may I say this, I listen carefully and I pay attention to the happenings back home, especially in Nevis, and it's good to know that you have found another well has been dug up in Madden's.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, yes, and I appreciate that, and really and truly, when I listen and I pay attention, it really having the infrastructure put in place, and I heard you at one time before, you made comparison between St. Kitts and Nevis in terms of electricity and in terms of water, and that is good, and sometimes you hear the cry, you get plenty money from St. Kitts, where the money gone, and in my view, hearing that it goes for the infrastructure and do other things, that's a very, very good thing. Anyway, congratulations on the work you're doing, not just you, but the rest, the government as a whole.
Thank you very much.
You serve the people well. And I like the comparison you draw, the analogy, is one caller mentioned about, okay, you made the point, the government, they can't mark their own papers.
Yes.
You're talking about your classmate. It is left to the people, and either one way or the people will decide, well, you have done a good job, we will put you back in government, or they will say, well, you haven't done a good job, so we're going to put the opposition into government.
That's the way it works.
And yeah, that's the way it works, and so the people decide. And I continue doing what you're doing, and I wish all the best, and everything will continue to go smooth, and I do hope, well, the people will look clear down the middle and see, well, it is working for the people. However, you give a good history of the NRP, man. You give a good history of the time they have lost and what have you and that kind of thing. And that says something. That says something. Anyway, all the best. Have a good night. And, well, we're enjoying it here in Stacia. The climate is hot. But nevertheless, we have had some good rain over the past weeks and months.
Yes.
So it's green. Yes, and your friends here, those who you know, your family members, they're doing all right. They're all right.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we keep close. All the best, Mr. Brantley.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for that call. As always, good night to everybody there in Stacia, and I'm happy that you still listen to On the Mark. And yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Give my regards to my family members there, please.
I'll do that. I'll see them tomorrow. One of them celebrated birthday today.
Oh dear.
Yeah, one of the siblings, one of their children celebrated birthday today.
Okay, well, I express happy birthday to them as well.
Yes, sir, I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brantley.
All right. Cheers then. It is 20 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock, and we're taking your calls. And I'm grateful to this caller because the last point that I had that I wanted to make was about water. And he has allowed me the opportunity to segue into that. Today, I was quite pleased to hear from the Honorable Spencer Brand, our Minister of Works, who has quietly been building an unassailable resume in terms of his work. He's not a flamboyant fella. He's not a talky fella. He doesn't engage in a lot of the ping-pong and the back and forth. He lets his work speak for him. And today he said that the drillers whom we have hired to find water, they have now finished their drilling on the first well in Maddens and have moved to their second location. Remember that they are supposed to be drilling 9 new wells in Nevis. 9. And that the intention is that we can put an extra 1 to 1.5 million gallons of water into our system. I have explained over the years, and this caller has brought me right back to that issue of this malicious claim that started in St. Kitts, but when the puppet master gave his instructions, those in the NRP had to carry them out. That nothing had been done in Nevis and that we had somehow wasted and squandered money. In fact, so foolish is this NRP that in the heart of Culture Armor 50, in the heart of the homecoming celebrations, when our people are here loving the island, loving what they're seeing, enjoying family and friends, they thought it best to put up billboards all around the island talking about money being wasted. And I have said that if buying generators to generate electricity and keep our people power on, if that is wasting money, then I am guilty. If improving our road network, building out roads in Brownhill, building out roads in Bath, building down Hanley's Road, building out Braziers, Shaw's Road, Island Main Road, Rollins, if that is wasting money, then I am guilty. If entirely rebuilding the water distribution network on Nevis, purchasing and installing new storage tanks all across Nevis, solving problems of low water pressure across Nevis, if that is wasting money, I am guilty. If investing money in a hospital wing that is 2.5 times the size of the current hospital, if that is a waste of money, then I am guilty. If building the water taxi pier and reception area and supporting our water taxi operators who are 100% that industry is owned by Nevisians, partnering with them and in so doing transforming transportation between St. Kitts and Nevis, then I am guilty. If taking the police officers in Newcastle out of a roach and bat and rat infested police station and building a brand new state-of-the-art police and fire station to house them, if that is wasting money, then I am guilty. If building out the CCTV network, building a CCTV command center in Charlestown, if that is wasting money, then yes, I am guilty. If building a new treasury building when the scoundrels burnt down the one that was there before, then absolutely I am guilty. If building the Mondo track so our children no longer have to run on grass and dirt, but can run on a facility that is IAAF certified, and so equip themselves in a much better way to compete regionally and internationally, then yes, absolutely I am guilty. You see, I am showing you what I've done. And so when the Honorable Spencer Brand reported today that the first well at Maddens has found water and they've now moved on to the second well, all I could say is that we are all guilty here in Nevis. You know what we're guilty of? Building the country. Using the very scarce resources that we have to develop the country. Because whilst we were told with the pittance that we received that we were squandering it, we were building out our infrastructure. St. Kitts that received the lion's share and was hurling accusations at us, never thought that the people of Cairn needed water, never thought that the people of St. Peter's needed road, never sought to invest a penny but we were investing in Nevis. And so whilst we were being accused and attacked, we were investing. And by the grace of God, the people of Nevis now are understanding what it is to invest in sustainable development, to enjoy sustainable development. If they say building all those houses in Maddens, in Craddock Road, in Hamilton, in Newcastle, in Rices, in Chimney Crescent, if they say all of that is wasting money, well, yes, we are guilty. But who living in the houses? Is that our people? If you can put your own key in your lock and enter your house tonight, do you agree that we wasted money to make those opportunities available to you? This is all about development. And I always was amused and bemused that people you think should know better spend all of their time parroting this foolish line that was sent over from Sinkits, that we wasted money and we don't know what we do with the money. When people in Cairn got to bail out a bucket, they say we wasted money in Nevis. You see the irony? People in Cairn are wash them kid in a bucket, but we in Nevis are waste money when people in Nevis enjoy a shower. So I am happy that they say I wasted money, because I can point to all the things that have happened in Nevis to demonstrate what we did in Nevis. And don't forget, we had a pandemic when Nevis was shut down. But every civil servant, every person who worked for government got paid in full and on time. Over 2 years when we had hardly any income. We shouldn't forget. So when they say we wasted, if we wasted it on our people. If we wasted it on development. And that is why today, when the Honorable Brantley reported, you remember how they were going on down here about water? They thought they had a winning issue. But we didn't make no noise, because you can't make noise and catch monkey. We set about solving the problem, because that's what a government is supposed to do. And so we set about engaging, finding drillers, went out to bid, selected a driller. The drillers came, and yes, there have been some delays, but the drillers now have hit water in the first well. They now move to the second well, and we're asking the people in the neighborhood, please, to be patient with us. There may be a little noise, but we are getting more water. And the beauty about this well in Maddens is right next to the tank that we've put in. So it's just to plug up and you have water. We're going to do the necessary testing. I'm told that we went to a deeper depth than anticipated, so we need another pump that is being worked on, and we're hoping to boost our water supply. See the problem, understand the problem, look at solutions, and implement. That's what we do. We solve problems. He also reported that the desalination plant, the first of its kind in Nevis, is likely to come on stream in the next few weeks. We expect by the time we go into budget debates in early December, we should be able to speak to some of these developments and to show the people of Nevis what exactly we have been doing on your behalf to ensure that them brand new pipe that we put in a brand new distribution system, one of the best in the region, that you have water in those pipes. Those brand new polyurethane tanks that we've erected all across Nevis, that we have adequate storage for that water. And you, the people of Nevis, will be the beneficiaries. That's what we've been doing. You don't hear us out there with no bag of noise. We have said, let us do what is necessary. We have a problem with water. It is not that the government is at fault. It is not that we did something wrong. But we have a problem because we're getting less rainfall, the aquifers are recharging at a slow rate, and our demand keeps going up. So we set about solving the problem. Desalination plant, small plant to be sure, but nevertheless, the first of its kind in Nevis, and additional wells all across the island. 9 additional wells is what we've commissioned. And I'm prayerful that the good Lord above will bless us, that each of those sites will yield potable water, so that our people can have the necessary water. This that we're undertaking will be a game changer. And look at the difference, ladies and gentlemen. You talk about management, you talk about good sense, you talk about foresight. The NRP, when they were in office, brought a company here called Bede. If you look at the ownership in Bede, the ownership of Bede, you understand why the NRP did business with Bede. They brought Bede, and you know the deal they did with Bede? They said, Bede, go ahead and drill some wells for us. When you finish drilling the wells, you, Bede, will own the wells and the water from the wells for the next 10 years. And we will buy the water from you. And then you know what else they tell Bede? All the electricity to run the pumps. No worry about that. The government gonna pay for that. So each month Bede sold water. Well, every day they sold water to the government. The government paid Bede. The government also was responsible for all the electricity to run the pumps to bring the water up. And that was the deal that Bede had for 10 long years. That deal finally came to an end when the CCM got back into office, and it is at that point that the people of Nevis were able to reclaim ownership of those wells. That is what they did. Look at what we now have done. We went out to bid. We selected a company from Trinidad to do the drilling, and we are going to pay that company to drill the wells, and then we tell them thank you very much, but those wells belong to the people of Nevis. Not in 10 years, but from day one. I think, ladies and gentlemen, these are fundamental differences in terms of approach, in terms of thinking. That we said to them, this is your money, thank you, and we move on. Let's take this call. We have about 6 minutes left. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley. This is Yvette.
Hi Yvette, how are you?
Not too bad, not too good.
Okay.
I've been having problem with the water department people. They cut off my water now for a couple months very well.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow is Thursday and Friday and Saturday I need to get some work done here. So I would like to know if I could speak to them and ask them to get back on my water, because I've been telling them for a long time to get back on my water, because I still pay my water bill. But it's like the water bill went up to $8,000. I tell them I didn't pay it up there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm paying it. I don't have 8,000, but I'm paying what I can afford to pay, and they still won't put back on the water up to this present moment. I need to get some work done here on Saturday, so I would like my water to get back on.
Well, I can't solve that problem for you on the radio, but I would want to suggest to you that you have a conversation. Have you spoken to Miss Mills, who's the manager there?
I don't know her, but I spoke to a lady and I said something to her. Well, I said maybe tomorrow I called to find out if she did what I told her. I called tomorrow to find out if she did what I told her, because I haven't seen anyone come to put the water meter back on. So I don't know if she did what I told her to do.
Okay, we'll have that conversation. I know that they try usually to try to keep people connected, because I have always said that we try our very best. We prefer, as we say, to keep people connected, but of course people are asked to pay for the service, and so even when people owe, they're asked to come in and come to some arrangement, and then of course they keep their water flowing because we understand the necessity of water. So please go in and have that conversation. Call tomorrow and see what can be worked out, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for the call, and take good care. I hope you can get matters resolved. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 4 minutes left, and we can take another call or two. 469-1616, 469-1700. If you want to be a part of the show, certainly you can feel free to call in. As we wind up the show, though, let me reiterate that I will hopefully, well, let me take this call. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, good evening, calling back again. First of all, I want to salute the two young cricketers from St. Kitts and Nevis who got young contract from the West Indies team for the development. The female is Claxton and Mr. Tuckett. Yeah, those two young cricketers, really want to celebrate them and hope we give them as much support as possible, you know.
All right. Thank you very much for that, and I join you in celebrating. We should always celebrate our people when they do well, so I join you in extending congratulations to these youngsters as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I was reminding that I journey to Bermuda next week, and I hope to engage with the people of Bermuda, of St. Kitts and Nevis descent, and friends of St. Kitts and Nevis at a town hall meeting there on Friday the 25th of October, and that will start at 4 and go until 7 p.m. It will be at the Christ Anglican Church Hall, Middle Road, Devonshire, DV8, Bermuda. I look forward very much to seeing our brothers and sisters in Bermuda and to be able to engage with them. And my message to them is simple. It is time for them to come home. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a good show tonight. We've had a good discussion. We've been back and forth. We've had some debates, and we have engaged. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. I assure you that I do not take this opportunity lightly. I am thankful that I have the strength. I still have the capacity. My brain still works. I'm still functioning at an optimal level, and that I can come and spend some time with you on a Wednesday. 2 hours of commercial-free talk show. And I am really happy that I have this opportunity. I want to thank Weber Herbert. Weber, if you're listening, good night, my brother. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to the staff here at Vaughan who have worked with me all these years. And I've seen them grow up. While I've grown older, they've grown up. And so I thank them for the opportunity, and I look forward to continuing this very important work that we're doing of engaging with each other, speaking with each other, having a conversation with each other, engaging in dialogue with each other, but not disrespecting each other. That's our show. This show is rebroadcast tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on Vaughan Radio. So if you like the show tonight, then why not listen twice? It's your call. We look forward certainly to continuing this discussion with you and to be here again with you next week Wednesday for another edition of On the Mark. That's our show. Good night. God bless you, and may you have a wonderful evening's rest. Thank you and good night.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company.